Welcome to another edition of Heavy Live with Scoop B. I am Brandon Scoop B. Robinson, senior writer at Heavy.com, and it's always a party whenever the WWE is in the building. No different as I got my homegirl Georgia Smith in the queue. What's going on, man?
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited. We've been talking all about this for months, but you've been so busy and I've been busy, and now we're here. So I'm so glad to be here.
Basketball has been kicking my butt.
Yeah. I saw on your Instagram, it's like every day. So I totally get you. But hey, finally.
Basketball is cool, but wrestling for me, I grew up a 90s kid, born in the 80s, 90s kid, watching, WWE superstars. So you had, Bret Hart, who was your uncle. You had Hulk Hogan, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, and the British Bulldog. So one day when I randomly got a follow on Instagram from the British Bulldog and then from Georgia J. Smith, I said, what's going on here? I guess, I talked to a lot of kids of NBA players about the journey of what it's like being the child of a star in basketball. And so I take that and I raise you, being the child of the British Bulldog, being the niece of Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of pressure for you?
I mean, growing up, it wasn't so much, but now that I'm, an adult, it definitely has put pressure, definitely. And it's crazy because, I was talking to somebody about this recently, and it's like, people expected me to get into wrestling, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. It just wasn't, I had no interest in it. My dad didn't want me to be in wrestling. He was a very protective dad and didn't want me in it. So, obviously Harry, that's what he wants to do. But obviously, but like when you're not in wrestling, people expect you to, they're like, why aren't you wrestling? I get it like every day on social media, or like every day, like, so why aren't you wrestling? Why aren't you wrestling? And people also think that because I'm related to somebody that like that door is just open for me, or like, I've got this silver platter, or like, oh, she's got it handed to her. It's like, I don't. And since I'm not in wrestling, like, people are like, well, she's not living up to like their potential. And it's like I get flack because I'm not in wrestling, and I get flack, and I would get flack if I was in wrestling, because if I was in wrestling, then it'd be like, oh, well, she just got the job because of her family. Well, it's like, that's not the situation. But because I'm not, people are like, well, why isn't she? So it's like, and now it's like, it's kind of that more pressure I'm feeling, because I'm like, well, should I have just gone into it? I'm like, you know what I mean?
It's almost like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel like. I feel like, I didn't get into it and people are not happy. And if I were to get into it, people would not be happy. So I see it with Charlotte Flair. I see it with Natty. I see and that's like, oh, well, they're how they are because of who they're related to, which is not the situation. But if they were to be doing regular jobs or something else, people would have something to say about that too. Exactly.
It's like nepotism. People think you should because of who you're related to, but then when you don't, it's like, well, why don't you? Because you're related to.
Exactly. And people are like, oh, they just think that like, well, if you just try out tomorrow, you're going to get it. No, that wouldn't happen. Like that wouldn't. And also I've tried out for WWE as, an on-camera role, and I didn't get it. So it doesn't matter.
Wow.
It doesn't matter.
Wow. WWE is cash cow. WCW, your dad was in that as well. I think he and Sting had a bond there.
Yeah.
Biggest differences between both leagues from your perspective as a kid?
So biggest differences between like WCW and WWE at the time?
FE, yeah.
Well, in my personal opinion, I'm not talking about WCW 93, but later on WCW, like 98, when my dad returned, it was just, I don't know, it was just like chaos. Like it was just, there was no rhyme or reason for anything. It just seemed like things and people were just really unprofessional. Okay. And I didn't really like how they handled things with my dad. Whereas with WWE, they really take in my opinion, they take care of their people and they look out for the people and they look for the people's best interests. Whereas WCW, I don't know, like judging as me watching as a fan and as my dad's daughter, it was, I don't know, it was a lot different than WWE. Because WWE, my dad seemed really happy. For the most part, he seemed really happy. And the WCW, it was like, ooh, this I don't like this British Bulldog on here.
When you, I guess your dad and Bret Hart, was there ever a split in the family of who goes for who and who argued with who based upon, I guess, those two matches? It would almost be like in basketball. You look at, for example, Doc Rivers, who's the coach of the 76ers. His son-in-law, Seth Curry, who's Steph Curry's brother, is getting ready to marry his daughter. So you have like the family rivalries and stuff. Was it ever weird during pay-per-views and stuff? Like who was rooting for who, cousins, brothers, etc.?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Well, for the most part, I was always in Florida when my dad was wrestling, like in those days. So it would just be like my brother and I, and obviously we would cheer for my dad.
Sure.
But yeah, sometimes it would be really difficult. Like with Summerslam '92, it was like, I mean, obviously I picked my dad, but like, as a fan, it's like, who do you pick? It's like you got England's golden boy and you got Bret Hart. So I mean, yeah, but that's a very good question, though. I'm going to ask my cousins, who were you guys rooting for back in the day? Because, you know, I don't know. Maybe it varied. Maybe it was like Davey one time and Bret the next, or Owen. And that's a very good question.
Georgia, when I look at your dad, when he did, I don't know if you call them cornrows or dreads. First of all, yeah. I swear y'all have some black blood in y'all, because you guys have, like, when I see the kinky hair and I see, it reminds me of like Ludacris back in the day, like when he would have his hair to blowout. Like, do you remember hair braiding sessions with your dad?
That's so funny that you ask that, because I don't know if you saw my dad's Instagram, his hair when he took the braids out. Yeah. And there was a bunch of comments and people were like, was he black? Is he half black? Is your dad black?
Yeah. Please enlighten me. What's going on there?
I mean, I don't know. I have, as far as I'm aware of, he wasn't. I know there's Italian blood. There's Italian, yes. But that doesn't explain the hair still. I don't know. And I mean, my hair is, as you can see, but it's so funny that you ask that. I remember he would go to a place in Tampa and a woman did it. And it was like, she did it really, really tight. And it was actually like really painful. And she had a daughter that like I would play with. And I remember my dad's beads, I used to play with them. Like they would dangle and I used to like, whoop, put them up, whoop, one after another up his hair. Yeah. But yeah, I remember one time as well, he got the one braid stuck in a rope and like ripped his hair out. Yeah, it ripped it out.
No.
Yeah, and like it didn't like bleed immediately. And as my mom said, it was like an orange peel.
Oh no.
And it was just like, yeah, all of his, the hair dots.
Yeah, that always threw me. I was like, with all due respect, who is this white man with braids? It just threw me off. But
nobody's done it. Well, I guess Road Dogg, did it, but
yeah, but Davey Boy was the first.
Davey Boy was the first, and he pulled it off. I think.
Yeah.
He had the face to do it, but yeah, that's I did have braids like that in 2003.
That was when Allen Iverson was rocking it. That's when was the thing.
Mine was by accident. I said I wanted hair extensions, and when I turned, it was all braids, and I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You asked for hair extensions." I'm like, "No, like hair extensions that you glue, not braids." Yeah. She was like, "Oh, whoops!" But as much hair as I've got, she did already the back part, right. And I was like, "Well, there's no going back now. I'm already, 3/4 done." Yeah. But yeah. People would say to me, they're like, "You need to get this back." I'm like, "Oh God, I've had it, but I don't know. I've got a lot of hair."
we're all in the house with a pandemic. Now's the time to be creative.
That's a very good point. You know, I'm debating on like changing my hair, but I don't even know what to do. I know we're getting off topic, but
yeah. It's no holds barred. We're having a candid conversation. Who was your favorite wrestler to meet throughout wrestling? Throughout your dad's career?
I guess The Rock would be my favorite.
Tell me more.
Well, I had a wee bit of a little crush on him.
Okay.
So I said to my dad, and I had met him like previously before in the past, but I was like, 13, and I was like, can you please introduce me to him? And my dad's like, okay. And I was like, I thought I was gonna faint, but yeah. And I've met him a few times since then, and yeah, I don't think he remembers meeting me, but that I know that's like a weird answer, but I was the most excited to meet him, and he's always the coolest, nicest, most genuine, most humble person in wrestling I've ever met. So, I mean, he's so popular and powerful, and you'd think like, oh, he might be kind of rude or that deep. No, he's always cool. I've met him a few times on either, different occasions, different places, and he's always takes time to talk to people.
Who was some of the toughest opponents that Davey ever faced?
He told me Haku was the toughest man he had ever met.
Okay.
That's what he said. He was like, I would not want to get into a fight with him. And Steve Blackman, who my dad actually traveled with, he said Steve Blackman was really tough.
That dude is tough as nails.
And Steve Blackman could break like a window with like, as my dad called it, a pump kick. Like he could break. I mean, obviously he could break a window, but he could do it so easily with like a little kick. Yeah. So.
Favorite match of your dad's?
Favorite match? I mean, obviously Summerslam '92. Probably like, I mean, you can't really get any better than that. That was probably like the peak of his career, and just overall, just everything about that match. But I did enjoy, there was a In Your House match with him and Bret in '95 I really liked. And his stuff later on, again, with The Rock, I really liked, because I felt like my dad's personality was coming out more like as a heel, and I just thought they worked good together. And like the two different, like, it's crazy because The Rock's like Harry's size, my brother's size. So it's like watching Harry and my dad wrestle. If Harry today could wrestle my dad.
Do you watch the current product of wrestling, and who reminds you most of Davey?
I do watch the current product. I do watch it. That's the most like Davey. That's a very good question. I mean, there hasn't been anybody that I've watched that I'm like, oh, he's like Davey, or who I would compare. I mean, except Harry. I actually have no answer for that. I have no answer for that because there's nobody that comes to mind.
The pile of dog poop match with The Rock. You talked about him. Did you think that was kind of weird?
It was a little embarrassing at school because people would be like, because my dad would come pick me up or whatever, and people would be like, The Rock bottom, him and dog poo, like whispering to each other. And I was like, oh God. And it was real dog feces. I didn't know that.
Sugar honey iced tea, yes.
It was real. And The Rock actually told me that a couple of years ago. I was like, no, that was fake. He was like, no, that was real. And he said, like, we could smell it from so far away. And he's like, your dad was getting all ready for the match, baby oil, pumping up, stretching. And he's like, that's dog. I'm going to have to be rock bottomed in that? And he's like, your dad's face just dropped. And I was like, oh, my God. And he's like, but, he did it. So I thought, like, oh, it's just, like, fake or whatever. No, it was real.
No.
My dad, what a sport, what a pro, going through that. I guess he was told like last minute, and he was like, what?
He needed a signing bonus for that.
Right? Exactly.
What was your relationship like with Shawn Michaels?
I loved Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was like my first crush as well. I really liked Shawn Michaels. He used to always give like my mom stuffed toys to give to me, or my dad stuffed toys to be like, give this to Georgia, like when they'd be on the road. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my, like he would do it all the time. He always made time to be nice to me and was nice to my cousins. Yeah, I have a lot of good memories of Shawn Michaels.
Your thoughts on Zelina Vegas's release due to trying to unionize the WWE?
I mean, I wish her the best of luck, and I understand what she was doing, but you know, I know that WWE, they did say, you know, prior to that they wanted the wrestlers to stop with the Twitch and the cameo, and it's a fickle business, and you know, what she did wasn't wrong. I don't think it was wrong, but you know, I hope she can come back, you know, because I think she's really, really talented, and she's a really nice person, and she's worked so hard to get to where she's at, and she's so good. Like, she's so good on the mic, she's good in the ring, she's like the package, and you know, she's got such a good story. So I hope, you know, in the future she can come back, and I believe she will. I think, you know, things like this happen, but you know, I think she's going to do her own thing right now, and I wish her the best of luck.
Your uncle, Owen Hart, was a legend. And to me, when I watched him, I thought it was so cool when he was like the only non-black person in the Nation of Domination.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, he's woke. He's down for the cause.
Yep.
What was he like?
My Uncle Owen?
Yeah.
Like in general, my Uncle Owen was like the nicest person ever. Just such a good heart. Literally such a good heart. He was probably the best heart in my family. He's just nobody like him, and he was such a family man. Like, family was first. Just such a funny, wonderful, warm, giving, generous person. Unfortunately, like, I didn't get to see Owen a lot because he was always wrestling, and then when he was home, he was with his family. Mm-hmm. And that was, you know, he did everything and anything he could to always be with his family, and to like always go to his kids', you know, talent shows or sporting events. Like, he went above and beyond for them. And yeah, he was literally like the best dad, best son, best dad, best brother. There's not a bad word I don't think anybody could say about him. He was literally like a saint walking the earth.
Where were you, and how did you receive the news when the tragedy happened? And how old were you?
I was 11. It was in '99. It was actually like a warm day in Calgary, I remember. And my grandfather had the wrestling ring outside. It was outside at this point because it was warm out. And my cousins and I were going to do like a water fight in the ring, because like the ring's like vinyl. So like we put water in there and like, woo, slide around. And we're like, oh yeah, we're going to do that. Where my cousin, I think it was my cousin Brooke, and I were changing in the bathroom in my grandpa's house. And I walk out of the bathroom, and it was like the phone's ringing off the hook. And my Aunt Allison is like on her knees, like screaming, crying. And I was like, what's going on? And my Uncle Smith was in the library, and he said Owen fell. Like, I think he like fell into the audience or something. And like, but I didn't really know anything more. And I was like, oh, is he okay? And he's like, I don't know. And then, you know, came to be, you know, my grandfather got the news, like, he died. And I remember walking up to my parents' house where they were watching the pay-per-view at. It was just right up the hill. And I walked there, and my dad came in the house, and he saw me at the table, and he's like, what's going on? Because like, he just came into the somber atmosphere, and I'm like, Owen's dead. And he's like, no, he's not. He said, shut up. I said, yeah, he fell. And my dad was like, what? And then he went upstairs to console my mom. But I remember, like, I told him what happened. And, yeah, it was a really, really dark day.
Yeah, to me, like, it in basketball, when they talk about Kobe, when he passed, the world hasn't been the same since he passed. And that's how I felt when Owen passed.
Yeah, that's a very good comparison. Like, our family has never been the same since that happened. And, you know, it just watching that Dark Side of the Ring episode, there was lots of things I didn't know about it. And, you know, after the fact and watching that, it was just such a tragedy.
Yeah, that man. I didn't watch it, the pay-per-view. I was at church it was a Sunday. I was doing something, but when I came home and it was all over the news, I was like, what?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I remember seeing Owen's body, and like I have never gotten that image out of my head.
I'm gonna leave that there. Your dad and Owen were pranksters.
Yeah.
What was the funniest thing that you saw Owen do? The funniest thing you saw your dad do? That you can share.
Well, they did a lot of funny pranks together. I actually posted one of them on my dad's Instagram a while ago. It was just them prank calling people. It was really, really funny. But one funny one that it was just so innocent and so funny was they put Hillbilly Jim's goats inside Vince's office. And when Vince walked in, they're like, man, and they're like all eating the paper and like shredding up everything and ruining. And he's like, Owen, Bulldog. Like, they were like, oh, I don't know how they got in there. Like, one's on the desk and like, man, like they were, I don't know how many goats there were in that office, but I thought that was so funny.
A birdie told me that in SummerSlam 92, you were in the nosebleeds watching your dad wrestle Bret Hart in front of 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium. Why the nosebleeds?
I think because they were like the only seats available, and because that's where the royal box, so that's where the Queen sat. Okay.
What was that experience like?
Well, the ring was like that big from like where we were sitting. It was really, really small, and like the little Titantron, the screens were really small. Yeah, I've never been to any wrestling event like it ever. It was really, it was like walking for miles trying to get to our seats and get out of there. But yeah, when my dad wins, the reaction is the loudest reaction I've ever heard in my life to any event. It was something that I'll forever cherish, and I just wish I could go back and do it again. I like me today and experience that. And, you know, because when I was like 5, I didn't understand, like, you know, it was, but now I wish I could do it again. But yeah.
I think we live in a day and age where YOLO is a thing.
Yeah.
And giving people their flowers while they're living is a thing. And I'll add to that by saying, I don't think you really process until you're somewhere between the ages of 16 and 21 that this is not forever, and you stay with the moment now, because tomorrow's not promised. And so when I hear you talk about that, me personally, it makes me think about, I've been to Canada twice. I've been to Montreal. I've been to Toronto. The last time I was in Toronto or Canada was 4 years ago. I went to the NBA All-Star game. And something in my mind said, watch Kobe and enjoy that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because, you know, that was his last year. And so when I hear you talk about wishing you could go back, or like,
yeah,
I'm curious to know that I take that and I raise you. Is there anybody in wrestling, I mean, I'm sure you're going to say The Rock, but maybe outside of that that you ever sit back and you just enjoy the art of watching them wrestle?
There's a couple. It's a very good question. I actually really enjoy watching Ricochet wrestle. I think he's really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy watching. Oh God, who was it? There's somebody. There was a match yesterday that I watched with Harry and Jacob Fatu. That was just really, really good. It was just a really good match. And sitting and watching Jacob and Harry, I've never seen them wrestle together ever. That was really good. So I'm gonna go with Jacob Fatu as well. And just think if there's anybody else in WWE. TJ Wilson, when TJ wrestled, that was somebody who I could sit back and watch because he was so good as well. So I'm gonna go with those people.
Bret Hart had a swag. If I can encapsulate it in one, hear me out. He had the presence of Michael Jordan. He had the swag of Joel Santana and Cameron from Dipset. Hip-hop wise, the way he dressed, wearing pink, wearing the glasses.
Yep.
And when I watched his boots, they always looked like the Jordan 11s patent leathers, the white with the black on the side.
Yep.
In your mind, what made Bret special? His overall, just his swag. What made him special in your mind?
Well, that's a good question. Because to me personally, Bret reminded me a lot of my mom. So that's why I connected so much with Bret, and that's why I loved him so much, was because I never wanted to see him get hurt, because he reminded of my mom a lot. And I think a lot of females really, really connected to Bret and really, really loved Bret. And I don't know why that is or was. Obviously, he was a very good looking man and everything, but I look at Bret and he reminds me of my mom. So I don't know. That's for me. But Bret was just overall different. Like you said, he kind of had that, a rock star kind of look, but he was also really, really cool.
Yes.
So yeah, he was just a really good combination. I think he was just overall the bright pink and then the black and then his music. Who doesn't love Bret's music?
Shawn Michaels was a close second, but Bret was that dude.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll add, if it was almost like a LL Cool J type of effect. The ladies love LL Cool J. That's why it's LL Cool J. But then the dudes loved him because the girls liked him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he still put out hits. And I feel like with Bret put out some performances. I mean, the sharpshooter was the move. It wasn't the Boston Crab. It was his own move. But at the same time, like Bret had hits, man. I remember when I think it was the Royal Rumble where they had to redo it, and his foot didn't hit. People were wondering whose foot. I think it was him and Lex Luger. Mm-hmm. Whose foot hit first, and then they kept running the replay over and over again.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Bret that stands out to me. I remember him in Yokozuna. I remember him in Stone Cold. I remember him and like I said, Lex Luger. I just remember Bret had hits. In your mind, if he had stayed in the WWE, will we be talking about him like we talk about The Rock?
I don't know. I honestly, I have no idea, but you made me think, Bret was also, to this day, I don't know if it's, fashion or, but, I feel like he was, a trendsetter.
Yes.
I feel like his glasses, you find that on Fashion Nova. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll see the top people wearing his glasses, and it's oh, he's been doing that for years. There was just little things that now, you know what I mean? It's crazy. But if he were to have stayed in WWE, Are you saying like, would you think he would be like even more popular, like even more like?
To be very honest with you, your uncle was an icon, and I feel like in football, people talk about Barry Sanders. What if Barry Sanders had stayed and not retired? When you look at hoops, you look at Michael Jordan, and you say, well, what if he didn't retire the first time when the Bulls have won that championship in '94? Like, I feel like he left when he was supposed to because that was his decision.
Yeah.
But you wonder the what if. What if he would have stayed? That like what like and it was his own personal decision, no shade, no criticism. But like I was a fan of Bret. What if?
I think so. I think he's talked about pretty much on the same level as The Rock. The Rock just went Hollywood.
Yes.
So I think that's the only difference. I don't know if Bret, if he would have continued going down that Hollywood route or what he would have done, but yeah, I think Bret is and will always be, he's an icon. He's going to be spoken about forever and ever and ever and ever. I feel like his legacy will not die.
Tell me something. Before the pandemic, Davey was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Who gives the acceptance speech?
It's going to be Harry, and I think I'm going to get a little tiny bit of time.
That's real. I think that his induction is overdue, but right on time.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Your mom is a legend as well.
Oh, mama. Yeah.
Where did your mom and dad meet?
They met in Calgary at my grandfather's house. She was about 17 she was 17. I think my dad was 17 going on 18. And he went in the house and he had like this really gross bug bite because I guess he got bitten in South Africa right before his trip to Canada. And he asked my mom when he walked in, and my mom already knew him because my mom saw his pictures and was like at love at first sight. And so when she saw him, she was so excited, and he had no idea who she was. He just knew this was the promoter's daughter or whatever. And he said, "Do you have a plaster for this? I've got this wound on my arm." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And she had no idea what a plaster was. And she's like searching all over the house. And she asked my grandma, she's like, "What's a plaster? The guy downstairs wants it." She's like, "Oh, darling, it's a Band-Aid. They call that it's a Band-Aid. In England, they call it a plaster." My mom was like, "Oh, God, I could have given him that like forever ago. I had no idea what he was talking about." But yeah, that was the first time at my grandfather's house. It was probably, I think, 1981, I think it was. And she was just had the hots for him, from that day forward. Well, obviously before that, but she met him. That's when she met him and was like, "Be still my heart." She was so in love.
You have been instrumental in keeping your dad's legacy alive. When did that light bulb come on that was your responsibility?
It's so crazy that it's happened, but it was January 2019. I had been going through some stuff, some personal stuff, and I just was feeling really low about things. And I don't know, I just said to my boss one day, or my colleague of mine, and I was like, "Do you think like maybe I should like do something for my dad? Like, I don't know, I feel like maybe like he should have like a platform of some kind." And they were like, "Yeah, that's a really good idea. You should do that." And I was working at iHeartMedia. And I started it that night. I got some pictures, and then as you've probably seen on my Instagram and my dad's, I did the video in the parking lot, like, "Hi guys, thanks for following, keep the pictures coming, let's keep this going." And every single day since January 7th, 2019, I have posted something. Every morning I post something. But, I just thought, I didn't expect anything of it. I just wanted people to see my dad and his stuff to be celebrated. And it was almost like a therapeutic experience for me to do that, because every day I wake up and I do something for him, and it's just really nice seeing pictures of him every day. And yeah, it brings me a lot of happiness, and it's just crazy how, you know, my dad hasn't had any content or anything in nearly 20 years, and he's, you know, as you can see, he's blown up. He's more talked about now than he has in, I don't know, nearly 2 decades. It's crazy. And I think, from what I've heard, that helped nudge the Hall of Fame, and there's been other things going on. And if that was the, you know, helped, then that's really, really awesome. And I'm glad that, you know, I could have helped with that.
I think there are some similarities between Davey and the Ultimate Warrior, who you contributed, I believe, on social media. I think it was Twitter. You sent him a shout out on excuse me, it wasn't the Ultimate Warrior, it was the Road Warrior Animal.
Oh, yeah.
I think that those guys were just so creative. You said on Twitter, rest in peace to Road Warrior Animal. My brother and I made him a birthday video a few weeks ago wishing him a happy 60th birthday. I cannot believe this. Thank you, Animal, for all your support and friendship over the years, and always answering your phone when my dad called you. Rest in peace. What was your relationship like with him? Fondest memory of Animal?
Animal was always really nice, always really cool, humble. I don't really have like a lot of like memories like when I was young, like little, but I remember him like being in our lives in like a small capacity. Like he would, like him and Hawk would maybe come visit once in a while, but I was like 4 or something. And I remember seeing him at like conventions, and he was always really cool, and he would always buy like, I had Harry's merchandise out, and I was responsible for selling it while him and my mom were doing signings. And he bought like a bunch of shirts, which was really nice of him. He didn't have to do that, and I never forgot that. And whenever he was in England, you know, I would always see him. But one thing, yeah, like I said in that tweet, was like my dad, whenever he would call him, he would always answer. And I remember the last time my dad got released from WWE, he called Animal, and Animal answered, and they were going to be doing some stuff together. But, you know, he was just always he's just an all around just cool guy, and like such a tough badass.
That's real.
Yeah.
We're very supportive of your brother. Your brother literally has been a wrestling looking for the right word. I mean, he's been a veteran in wrestling for a while. You're supportive of him, and you have a relationship with other wrestlers' children for during their time. What you guys are you guys are the cool kids, but like, how cool is that? Just like to swap stories and to kind of just have that rapport with other wrestlers' kids.
To be honest, we're not like I'm not really friends with a whole lot of them, but the one main family I'm close with is the Onawais. So like Afa and Sika's kids.
Okay.
And, those like they are who I'm close to, and our families go way back. And believe it or not, Mike Rotunda's kids, Bo and Wyndham. I remember going to trick-or-treating with Wyndham Rotunda, so Bray Wyatt. Him and I, we used to trick-or-treat together when I was little. So them a little bit, but the Onawais, we go way back, and like whenever we see each other, it's like no time has passed, and we always have a story, or Afa has a story about our family. Actually, I think a daughter and a son of Afa's were born in Calgary. Like I think his one daughter, she was born the same time as Bret in the same hospital.
Wow.
Monica is her name. Yeah.
You have a background in broadcasting. You were correspondent for Major League Wrestling. Are we gonna see you on TV?
Ooh. I think you just might.
Okay. Well, you have the digital presence for it. You've been doing a lot with social media. You've been doing a lot with your dad's legacy, and I respect it. And I think that when we look back at this conversation, I think it'll all make sense.
It all makes sense.
And you have a presence. You look at your social media. But I'm going to tell you something. One of the things about Canadians that I like when they say the word about. And I first recognized when your Uncle Bret would say, "You want to talk about?" And I've been listening to you the whole time saying about. I didn't say anything. But I feel like a Canadian accent, it's like it stands out, but it translates well into television.
That's funny that you ask that, because Harry and I had to do something over the weekend, camera-wise, and the person was like, to Harry, they said, "You sound a lot more Canadian than your sister." And Harry's like, "Oh, guess I spent more time there. I don't know." But with mine, it comes out a little bit more when my mom's here. It does, but I lived in England for 5 years as well.
Okay. Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And people just would always call me Yank or American, or so. I mean, I've got tri-citizens. I've got UK, Canadian, and US citizenship, so I can live and work. Maybe I'm not allowed to, but I do.
And right now, it's best to stay where you are.
I think it's best to stay where I am. Exactly. I don't think I'll be making any trips up to Canada for Christmas. I think I'm going to just stay.
Mm-hmm. Well, you answered all my questions. You are off the hot seat. Where can everybody find everything that you have going on and follow the movement? Where can they check you out?
I didn't say that because I call my dad's thing the Bulldog movement. Team Davey. So there you go. You're on the right page with me.
Here.
I've got at the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith is my dad's Instagram. You can see all of his wonderful pictures I post every day on there, and you can follow me. I mean, my page is private, but I'll still accept you. It's at Georgia J. Smith, and I have Twitter, which is Georgia Smith 87, and I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Georgia Smith 7. So I like 7 because I was born in 87. As you can see.
It's a good year.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patience with me in this lovely light. So thank you. I've enjoyed this, and I can't wait to come back and to talk more.
I got you. We'll talk soon, dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.